detective, thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again. Another Aussie flick tonight, gentlemen. The Loved Ones from 2009. Little known, I would suggest. I knew it on the periphery, but I had never seen it before prior to this.
Pretty well liked in horror circles, but not a
It was interesting viewing, I will say that much.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into it, just a quick bit of news. I believe Sly is... Don't laugh.
Leave the bloke alone.
No, I am just reporting the facts. On the July 4th weekend, he teased something about Expendables 4. Potential. What are our thoughts on Expendables 4?
What do you reckon? I'm not going to say don't make it that way.
No, but...
Expendables 1 I didn't really like. 2 I really enjoyed. 2 I really enjoyed. That had, when Lundgren started to go sort of comic relief.
Yeah, Van Damme.
Villain. Like, that one was excellent. Well, not excellent, but it was fun for action fans.
Was Chuck Norris in that one?
3 just kind of hit the skids a bit.
I would suggest this. This is my take on it. I think it's played. It's played out. It was the second one, as you say, was the most fun because they got every one of those guys got something to do. Yeah, and it was good fun, and we all saw them, and they played off their personas, and they had a laugh at it all. The first one was okay, but it when it's actually trying to be a little more serious, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the third one, it just didn't work, mate. It just didn't really work. And I don't see why you would... Part of the reason the third one was a problem is because it was so stacked with people.
Yeah. Well,
it was like a 15...
I mean, at this point, you basically got to make... Gibbo will probably agree with me on this. So you basically got to make a live-action Broforce at this point. Where it's all of crazy characters and they're fucking fighting Satan or something. Yeah. There's not a whole lot... I mean, I'd be there, but as you said, some of it was just there was too many people, and some of the people in there I didn't care to see too much of them in the scenes.
Well, the third one they had people like Kellen Lutz and stuff, people like this in the side, like who was the younger crew, and it was like, what the hell's this for? Like, we're not here to see them. We're here to see Dolph and Sly and Arnie. We're not interested in this young crew that they're putting together. Forget about that. We don't care. You guys don't age. As far as we can see, you guys don't age.
That's not why we're here. We're here specifically to see you old blokes get together and
kick some ass,
punch the shit out of each other, basically.
And the third one went away from that. And I just don't think there's a need. I'm not saying that I won't be there. If it comes out, I'll be there.
Look, Sly's very shrewd.
He is very shrewd.
Just teasing this stuff to see if we're interested. And of course, I
guess what I'm saying is
we're talking about it.
I think you can only really go down.
Look at him
to have another one.
I haven't seen 2 or 3. I'm gonna say it.
Well, two's by far the best one.
Look, the iron's bloody lukewarm at best.
But mate, it's cold.
It doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be warm for Sly to be striking. His philosophy is if you've got an iron, strike. and strike until your iron breaks.
Keep striking.
And then if you get the iron somehow, strike.
It's gone cold. No, keep striking. It'll get hot again. I just don't see a need for it at this point. But if it's out there, I'll check it out.
Yeah, you're a big fan of this. Oh, look, I don't see a need for it. But what are we going to see the movies?
Expendables 4's out. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, Sly has proved me wrong many times over his career, so I'm not going to write the bloke off. And I don't think that he'll dive into it just to make a movie. He's got Rambo and Rocky pictures to worry about that for. I think he's shrewd enough to know, is there buzz out there for it?
Yeah.
Is there enough buzz to go for a fourth one? And if so, what do we do here? Do we cut back on some of the characters we had in 3? Because there was also a leak. See, 3's box office dipped a fair bit, but it was because it also leaked. And so they missed out on a little bit of box office in that opening weekend.
We wouldn't know anything about that, would we?
That's what I'm talking about. Because it leaked, it lost a little bit of box office in that opening weekend, which kills movies these days, I mean, fuck, Dark Phoenix wishes it had leaked just so it could get out of cinemas quicker. It's already gone, isn't it? I think it's already out the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I'm gonna reserve judgment until I hear some more. But it just seems a little bit played out. That's my take on the Expendables.
Let's revisit after you see Rambo.
Oh yeah, of course, cool. Once we've seen Rambo, I'll come back to this discussion.
We'll circle back.
Yeah, we'll circle back. I'll also just quickly chuck out an up or down. I saw the trailer. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I would assume you might have. The Jumanji sequel, next level. Yeah, it looks alright.
Yeah, it looks kind of funny.
Yep. I like the fact that they kind of brought in these old cats that they've now entered the game. So they're all a little bit silly.
Switch.
And now The Rock and Kevin Hart are playing different personas almost.
Yeah, I get it. I can see they could get some laughs out of that.
Yeah, I like that. I'll give it an up.
Yeah, I'm up.
I haven't seen it.
Haven't seen it. Yeah, well, you know. I think that's your fucking stock and trade.
And I've got another kid coming. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
See anything.
You're on your way out, mate. You're not going to... Yeah. What are you saying, Matty? Nothing. I wish.
All right, let's take a break.
Footage of a missed layup.
Let's take a break. Here's the trailer for 2009's The Loved Ones.
Will you go to the dance with me?
I'm going with Holly. Guess who asked me to the dance?
Tell me, who is she?
I'll never tell.
Love hurts.
Pretty as a picture.
Love scars. What are you looking at? Bring the hammer, Daddy.
This year's Queen of the Dance is Lola Stone.
There he is. Love is like a flame, burns you. It boils your brains and turns you into one of them.
Say happy.
Happy. Love hurts. Love hurts.
The Loved Ones from 2009 was written and directed by Sean Byrne, who also did a film called The Devil's Candy, and it's produced by Michael Brohan and Mark Lazarus. It stars Xavier Samuel as Brent, Robin McLeavy as Princess, and John Bumpton as Daddy. The budget was $4 million, and in Australia the box office was $254,000. Unfortunate. A little bit of trivia: John Jarrett turned down the role of Daddy to avoid typecasting. Yeah, it's probably, because at that stage he was Mick Taylor as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so fair enough.
Fair call from his point of view.
All right, Jarrett.
Yeah.
Thoughts, mate?
Look, I've seen this a couple of times now. There's stuff about it that I really, really like. I think the idea itself is pretty straightforward, but the way that it's played, there's some parts of it that are really creepy, and there's some of the stuff to do with like the house and what they set up. It works really well for a horror flick, and it's pretty. It calls back to things like Misery and stuff like that in parts. The acting is pretty good from most parties. There's a couple of moments that go a bit over the top that I'm not a big fan of. I guess it depends where you fall on the sort of torture sort of stuff. I'm not big on it. I don't particularly like flicks that just go for that as their sort of stock and trade, as their kind of calling card. But I didn't feel like this one did. I felt like it was legit trying to really sort of scare you and trying to really sort of put out how twisted these people were. And I quite enjoy it. I think I'll probably go to a 3.5.
Okay. Matty?
I just sat and I was like, would I want to see this again? And did it entertain me the whole way? I probably wouldn't watch it again in a hurry, but it did keep me entertained, even though a lot of it was just like, this is a disgusting idea. So probably a 3 for me. But some of the stuff that was going on, like, it did make me feel uncomfortable. You want to feel something when you watch a movie, right? And they did do some things where you're like, how the hell is he going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And I guess it wasn't the same torture that we saw in Strangers 2, where people were just sitting ducks. At least he had some fight in him and he had a chance to survive, you know? So, yeah, so I was like 2.5 or 3. I'm happy to give it a 3.
Yeah, I had not seen this before. And I actually I'm not really a torture porn guy, but I kind of felt it was kind of worked here because it was cringe-inducing, some of it. And for a period there, they're really laying on the torture quite thick, but you kind of get a sense of how bad this guy's situation is, you know. But the problem is it doesn't hold. It's 80 minutes at absolute maximum, and it probably shouldn't be. There's miniature subplots going on, but they really have very little to do with what else is going on in the house. It calls back to Misery. It's got a little bit of Texas Chainsaw to it, and it's also got a little bit of Carrie, almost. Unfortunately, you don't really get to know the Princess. You know, she's supposedly the weirdest girl in school, but you know, we see her one time. He asked her to go on a date, go to the dance, and that's it. Next thing you know,
she's over in the car watching him.
Yeah, she's doing the most heinous things to this bloke. So the characterizations are a little bit patchy, but overall, I kind of enjoyed myself, and I gave it 3.
Yeah, I think
it was a slocky sort of, gory schlock.
Yeah, the good thing for me is, like we mentioned that the characters are. Well, I don't really think they're thin, and I think that the story, the plot that we see is pretty thin, but there's enough in there for you to fill some stuff in yourself, which is there is quite some depth to that.
Yeah,
I agree about the subplot though. It seems to be there for one trip down the track. Yeah. Which doesn't really pay off all that much for me. Like, it's not worth the whole subplot.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple of moments where I burst out laughing at what was going on.
Yeah.
And that automatically gives it a bit of legs.
And look, the girl that plays Lola is genuinely creepy and absolutely seems to be getting off on hurting this bloke. And you really needed that. You needed that sell. Because that's what they were trying to sell.
Yeah.
You know?
There was a couple of scenes where where she's got the bloke up the tree and she's throwing the rocks at him and starts giggling.
Gleefully cackling about it.
Yeah, well there was a couple of parts there where I thought, it's a little bit over the top here. Like she's acting a little bit like a little kid and it doesn't really work. But it was only a couple of moments, and for the majority of it she really did creep you out, like some of the shit that she was doing, and getting as you said, getting glee out of, like sitting there showing him the book and
asking him to cry. Like,
it was just like twisted, really twisted. And she was excellent.
Yeah,
I thought Xavier Samuels.
He was good, because basically he can't talk.
He's silent
the majority of the film
for the most part. And Daddy is quite understated.
Yes,
which makes him super scary.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple of things, like when you mentioned Texas Chainsaw, that's the very first thing you think of around that table.
Yeah.
But the difference is he's just doing whatever
He's a facilitator.
Yeah,
he's just an enabler.
Anything to make you happy, dear, basically.
Yeah, and when you figure out that he's pretty much lobotomized his wife just for his creepy effect.
Again, in similar sort of thing I said with Two Hands is that I like the fact that it's a torture / horror film with that uniquely Aussie flavour and look. Like it's classic, out in the country. It has a unique Australian feel.
Something about that regional sort of town setting that always gets me.
Well, fuck, mate, you only have to hear anything about Snowtown.
Yeah,
to know we don't have a good reputation.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing about, and you see, you go through parts of Australia and you drive around places and you think, fuck, this is just beautiful to look at, wide open spaces, and then you get this sense of also, fuck, I'm alone out here. There's no one here.
Exactly.
The people that live out here for a reason, and sometimes those reasons you might not want to know. Like it's just it's
or they don't want to be disturbed.
Yeah, exactly.
If you do so you might have problems.
It's just something that works really well on film, I think.
Yeah, decent soundtrack.
Yeah,
a little bit of LRB. Oh, some LRB. I loved it.
Loser. Loving that.
Yeah, that was solid.
I also loved, and I wasn't a massive fan of the song, but Pretty Enough.
Yeah.
The way that they take that and they put us, in the context.
Dodgy spin on it with Daddy and Princess.
Yeah,
together,
it's
dancing.
Messed up.
I got a massive fright at the car crash. Where he looks up and the bloke's just wandering down the middle of the road with no shirt on, blood all over him, and he just swerves out of the way and has the accident.
Yep.
Nice little sort of jolt. Got you sort of probably nothing that you didn't expect, but it just was handled quite nicely, and it sort of I guess came out. It sort of surprised me a little bit.
Kicks things off too, because obviously it sets his sort of character progression going. Yeah. But also the guy in the middle of the road. You think, what the fuck was that all about?
Exactly. And then it, of course, comes back, which is good.
Yeah. Yep. I didn't expect that, which I probably should have, but
I actually like the fact that she asked him to go to the dance and he doesn't treat her like shit. He just sort of says, look, I'm going with someone else. I'm going with Alice.
Yeah.
He doesn't do the whole... oh, fuck you bloody weirdo or something like that, which tends to happen in these type of movies.
It makes her even worse as a character because she's not sympathetic in any way.
Yeah. So you're not saying he treated her like crap and he's getting his comeuppance. It's just he actually told her in a nice way.
Yeah.
Thank you, but I've got someone. I'm going with someone else, and then she's turned it into fucking just pure insanity,
Yep.
And I just like that because it went away from what you would normally get, in these type of films.
Yeah.
And usually it's the other way. The power's reversed, right? It's some big goonish quiet dude that's doing all
this. One of the hot girls out, and then that doesn't work, and then he becomes crazy or whatever.
The power shift changed a lot there.
I'm not going to lie to you. It's certainly not really creepy to find a girl that you just knocked back to go to the dance standing right next to your car while you're having sex. I think
not creepy at all.
The teacher.
Correct. That was although that back and forth was pointless. Him saying, when I said take it elsewhere, I meant off school property. Very funny.
That was I don't know what would be worse, the razor blade necklace or the principal.
Once the film hits the torture period, I mean, it gets pretty fucking nasty.
Oh, yeah.
It gets very hairy.
I must admit, I really like the sequence where he gets abducted and it's sort of intercut with mum trying to ring him. This is the mobile getting kicked away at the last minute.
And them stopping for a charcoal chicken dinner and
pick a possum up as well.
That's right.
Which cracked me up. I met a bloke once who was like, if you find a dead kangaroo on the side of the road, it's fine. Chuck it in the back. As long as it's still warm, meat for 3 months.
Jesus. Fuck, mate. Well, you're lucky you're here. Judging by this.
Okay. We're lucky we haven't fed your fucking face on a leg somewhere.
Maybe. I don't know if
Jesus.
But,
injecting the fucking domestos into his throat.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to clean the toilet with that stuff.
I've heard of that, so I didn't realise exactly what was going on.
She was
I just
obviously
thought it
killing
was-
his vocal
The
cords.
vocal cords. The director said the thing behind it was more brutal, obviously, but gaffer tape comes off, and this doesn't.
Yeah.
Basically, sort of just ramping up the craziness of these two, and
Totally did.
yeah.
Oh man. And then advising you shouldn't nail his cock to a chair if he doesn't
yeah.
piss. But I would be pissing like a racehorse. She'd be like, if you don't piss,
You've got 10 seconds.
oh shit!
Oh,
you just see
as well.
You just see this, Jared. You just see this. You've got 10 seconds. It's just like a big fountain of piss.
You're sitting there going, "Give me another cup."
Turn into R. Kelly.
Oh god. Yeah, but that shit was quite intense. Because he's got the nail and he's flicking the top of it, and and they've already showcased the depravity that they've already been up for by injecting that stuff directly into his throat. They don't even flinch away from it. They don't even give us a whole "I'll do this if you don't shut up" sort of thing. They don't even give you a chance to just shut up. They just jam the thing in there, and so you think, "Fuck, they're gonna nail his dick to the chair."
Yeah.
You know, like the feeling, it's the intensity's there.
It just starts off like the room is set up like it's the ball from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Cheapest possible, like these makeshift decorations or whatever. And the same thing comes back with the glitter later on. You're just like, man, these guys are a mess.
But the thing is, throwing to nail his dick to the seat and injecting stuff into his throat was just the tip of the iceberg. Because then they put his... they nail his feet to the floor.
Yeah, with
Knives.
bloody dinner knives.
Oh, and then things get really nasty. I mean, it was not for the faint of heart or weak of bowel, I can tell you.
No.
She starts salting that wound on his chest.
Yeah, there's 4.
Which you run in the mill bloody sacks of table salt.
Look, I'm going to tell a story. This is how stupid I am, so please. Well, actually, it's how stupid my brother is. If you like, I had this problem with whenever I played Oztag, is I'd tend to dive into to try and make a tag, and occasionally the grass was
Grass
obviously,
and shit, yep.
and I would actually burn a section of skin off my leg.
Yep.
All the time. Happened about 4 times. There was a huge patch of skin, like, you know, maybe the size of a tennis ball, would just be burned off. So it would weep like a motherfucker, and I couldn't cover it, and my bloody everything gets stuck to it, and it was just so Luke, in his wisdom, and look, at the end of the day it worked out perfectly, he says, "Oh, I know how to fix that." Comes out the fucking table salt and goes and just pours it directly into the wound, like directly onto the wound, a massive load of it.
Yep.
And I've just gone, but it immediately hardened up, became a scab. And so stopped me from having to worry about it. Fucking stupidity at the highest level, but it worked. So yes, I can imagine what it's like getting a wound on your chest salted.
Yep.
And yeah, she did it with the fork, didn't she?
Yeah, she did it with the fork. She was bloody
She's
cold.
Come on!
And you see it later on, and she's got the dry blood drip down her hands.
Oh.
It's some cool visual stuff. I
Yeah.
guess, but
Then the drilling through his head.
that was a bit silly. But man, you're like,
And the father's there going, "You gotta press a little bit harder." When the first time she presses it and it kind of ricochets off his skull.
Yeah.
how
Look, it
was
was-
tying a dude down during that?
It was a bit silly, but the only thing I could think of was fucking Dharma.
Dharma, yeah. And
Which is,
people-
I believe, the director, that's exactly what he was going
and
for. And
several of those guys were alive.
yeah, yep.
He then poured acid into the hole, so they didn't survive. But
Enough of that. That's it.
you know, like, but the worst part was when the dad starts getting in there, open up the hole a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you know, at that point, you don't even see it. You just see kind of...
And you hear the sound.
You just hear the... And you're like, oh, man. I was just kind of like...
You see the dust.
I was clenched. So I
And
didn't
it
want to
seems to
talk about
go on for a while.
Yeah.
It's not like over in like 10 seconds. It fucking goes for about a minute and a half.
I found it, like, I don't know, it took me out of it a little bit that after he'd been drilled, then he started like really trying with the blade to get his hands free. I was like, how has he not been doing that for the whole time?
I'll tell you what, though, things get super crazy when he escapes the chair. And Dad gets a knife to the neck and then thrown into the basement with a group of lobotomised crazy people.
Yeah, I'll tell you what,
And a hammer.
it was super satisfying that when the dad got done. It was like, oh, fuck, thank God. It was a real... Like, talk about...
Doesn't he end up down there and kill them all?
Relief. Yeah, he ends up down there.
He kills them.
But you know what? That shit was... I mean, that was a real kind of holy shit moment because you'd seen her book.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, when she's going through the book, you're like, fucking hell, this is messed up. But again, it even ramps things up when you're like, these loved ones that she was after and kidnapped are still there.
Yeah.
They're still, like, these are the guys.
And they kind of...
It's
they
like,
kind of,
what the fuck? This is just messed up.
They kind of pointed that it might be the case with the mother.
The one that got away. It's
The mother was sitting there, you know, with the... She'd been drilled in the head and she was just basically a...
Yeah, yeah.
So it was kind of like foreboding that might be the case.
Yeah.
But when she opens the bloody thing and they're in there and they're basically just beasts now. I like those things out of the bloody...
The Descent.
The Descent, yeah.
Isn't it creepy when you think about what must have gone on in that family in the lead up to it? Just like...
Well, that's the thing.
At what
There's
point did
so
you decide
much...
to make a pit? At what point did you decide,
Yeah.
I'm going to do this to the first person? At what point was it okay to do it to 3 or 4 or 5 people?
Well, you look at it, the book, the first picture in the book is little kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, that's a fucking step too far. But then, again, one of that kid in the picture could be one of those things there. And it's like, it's another one of these moments where the backstory just kind of builds in itself, which is one of the good things about the movie. But yeah, I got some dislikes about the stuff I just mentioned, but it was just so... the whole time you're constantly thinking, as you said, what got to this point? Like, what happened before this?
Yes.
Like,
The last one for me was just her... when she attacks them on the road, gets hit by the car, and you notice that her wrist is snapped and the bones are all sticking, and she's dragging herself along the fucking bitumen with a knife, and I'm just like, it's like something out of the Terminator. She just won't die.
Yep.
It was just, again, one of those kind of, you know, coming back to the whole idea, I love this person or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that was her whole thing. But then, they didn't satisfy me. Or
Didn't it just
work.
get into all her creepiness though?
Yeah,
She
all
was
round.
just that was nuts. Her asking her dad who looks prettier. There's so many of those little moments with her where you're just like, this is so whacked.
Yeah. Like, the creepiest part from her, I think, is when she's got him, he's already killed her dad, but she's got him on the chair and she's still kind of got this happy kind of vibe to her, and she says, I'm going to your house now and I'm going to stab your mum in the neck.
Yeah.
Like you did to my dad. And I'm just like, oh, that gave me shivers. Like, that was just...
And then I'm gonna stab your girlfriend in the heart, just like you did to me.
Yep.
Bad. The reveal that the copper's son was one of the kidnapped, one of the last ones.
Yeah.
Blindsided me a little bit.
Yeah, nice little
was a nice little
twist.
touch, and kind of, you know, went into the daughter's, you know, what was going on, but that was a little clumsy. But I did kind of like that they tied it back. In that sense, the dog coming home
was upsetting.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. It was supposed to be, and it was super effective.
Yeah,
like the dog coming home injured. Is when they go, something's wrong.
Yeah.
So in a situation where he's kind of like, oh, he's run off before, he'll come back.
Yeah. This says, no, he's not coming back.
To have
Something's
the
happened.
dog come home immediately sets things going. And I was like, that works a treat.
Yeah.
It worked a treat
really well.
plot-wise. I just can't have it.
Yeah, I know, but see, that's the thing. Like, I understand that you don't like animals being hurt, but it's going to happen in some of the pictures. And for that, the purpose that it was there for, I was like, that's good.
And
That
you
worked really well.
lead up to that when he's climbing the rocks and you're like,
I mean, shit, mate. We're watching humans being tortured. You go.
I know.
If you can cop a dog who gets back and is still alive.
The torture is so over the top that you can...
But isn't that like the complete antithesis of the rest of the movie, right? Like you don't actually see the violence to the dog, and that's one of the most effective uses of the violence.
It is. I mean, I just thought it was such an effective way to get things going from. Yeah. This is real now.
I fell in love with that dog after he almost he's gonna kill himself. Oh no, he actually wants to live. He's a survivor.
Yeah,
on the rock face, and then he gets up there and you're like
which plays through the rest of the movie.
I was waiting for the dog to wake him up with a bark, and then him go, all right.
Yeah.
But then he gets up there and he's lying, and the dog just cuddles up to him. He just like.
Well, that's what I love. I love when the dog cuddled up to him, and the dog getting home is almost like. Yeah. The dog is one of the reasons that the dog is like his mum and the girlfriend is one of the reasons he's trying to get. Eventually, he said he thinks, I do want to live, basically.
Yeah.
So I was a big fan of that. Not necessarily the violence of it, but I felt the little plot point of getting the dog to kick things into gear was really good. It was
effective.
Yeah,
so effective.
Super effective. One of the few things I did like about the fucking side plot was old mate attempting to slide on the front of the car.
I got a couple of giggles out of his shenanigans, but I didn't really...
There's always room for a bit of slapstick.
I know. And initially I thought they were going to find him. That's how it was going to come back.
Yeah.
Like that, those two were going to drive off to get a bit of hanky-panky, come across his house and find him.
Yeah.
But it didn't.
No.
It called back only to the copper's son.
No, exactly. It was pointless. But that doesn't mean I can't laugh.
I laughed
off the front.
Absolutely laughed my ass off when he fell over there.
Did you feel a bit awkward when he dropped the girl home?
Well, I'll tell you, that actor, Mr. Valentine, I believe, every time I see him, something's a little off. So he fit right in here. So as soon as I saw him on screen, things were a little awkward.
Yeah.
That whole angle was a little bit awkward. Like that she was super drunk and all this sort of like it just kind of
on those drugs and stuff.
Yeah, it was. But dropping her home was a bit strange.
Cringy too.
Yeah.
You're definitely taking advantage of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last bit, you already mentioned it, like the whole sequence of her dragging with the knife, but the fact that he's in the driver's seat to finish her off.
Yeah.
Nice little
Nice
callback.
touch, yeah.
Nice little wrapping up of the story.
Didn't they give you just the right amount of time before knocking her head off?
Oh, yeah, exactly. They kind of just
took a second and boom.
I've never been more satisfied watching a girl pop it. When she gets punched in the face, when she gets kicked in the chest, you're just like, good on you, mate.
Yeah, well, he was in some very extreme circumstances.
Yeah, that's right.
I've got question marks on him still being capable of any of that. But you know.
If my feet had been bloody...
And if I'd had a rudimentary lobotomy done to me, I don't think I'd be walking around very well.
No.
Alright, any other likes?
That's it for me.
Such a grey area, this movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The line between like and dislike is very, very close.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dislikes, then.
Oh, wait, likes when he chucks the drill. You're like, how is he going to use this? He just throws it.
Yeah, it's him fair there.
That was super satisfying when he survived that section of it. Sorry.
One of my biggest problems was there were comedic elements somewhat, or whatever you want to call them. It was hard to pinpoint. But when after things like after they inject the stuff into his throat, and then they make this kind of over the top thing of, we can't hear you, you know, it kind of like it just felt slightly out of place because I was feeling the tension and the you know, the intensity of what was going to happen to him.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of slightly undercut
I guess
a little bit of that.
I guess it was like it's funny to them.
Trying to take it was showing that it was funny to them, and they'd probably done it every time.
Yeah, it was kind of like I took it as like it's their little gags, but it's not funny at all to watch.
But yeah, there was a couple of times when it veered into over the top.
Well, it was as I said, I felt there was a couple of moments where the acting,
as you say, when they're throwing the rocks at him, it's like fuck.
That part was a little. What you were talking about was cringe-inducing, and it was some for the part that you were saying, where you're like, it's just so weird, but some for the part it's like I'm cringing because it's fucking weird. They're creepy. They're creepy people. But I get what you were saying. It kind of took you out of it.
Took you out of it a couple of times. I mean, when they got right into the torture, they steered away from it slightly. They actually went away from it and went for the more creepier route with occasional, like even just that bit where, as I said, the drill strikes his head and ricochets off. It's kind of darkly humorous, but it's not, because their father's kind of like, I told you got to bloody push it a bit harder, and then she just and then it goes. But a couple of times they just kind of veered a little bit too over the top in those couple of sequences there.
Oh, they were just so creepy. The crownings as well. You're just like, they just had these little ceremonies that they were doing to finish this guy off, pretty much. And it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah. The choice to use the little crowns from the crackers, good move. Good move. It was such a good look. Like her in the dress with the little paper crown was such a strange look.
Yeah.
The movie's just a little bit too slight. I mean, it's 80 minutes stretched to 80. The subplots bring nothing to the table. So evidently, if you took the subplots out, the movie's probably an hour.
It's meant to be a contrast though, right?
Yeah, I know, but it didn't come back around. It needed to link up in some other way other than what they went with.
Yeah, I think...
I feel they should have found them. Not the cop. They should have found him. And then we could have had a bit of a showdown, and
I felt. Look, I liked that he kind of got himself out in the end, because it was sort of like,
or maybe they came across him on the road or something.
Through the whole way, like going with his story, he's feeling like he's alone, and eventually he's the one that comes around to, there is people that love me, and I want to get back to them. Like, I felt that was okay, and if you had old mate that was sliding on the car bonnet end up coming and saving the day, that would have undercut things a little bit for me. But
I mean, it could have been they turned up, they thought if you think this, they're going to save the day, and then she kills them.
There was no way you can get that bloke away from that girl.
Kind of like what they did.
I felt like it needed something more for them to do, but I don't know if them getting involved in what was happening would have actually worked. I felt like what was happening and what was that they were doing with Lola and him being tied to the chair and all that was okay. That didn't need too much tweaking. But what was happening on the side just was so
those
jarring.
Things felt like they were 20 minutes of padding.
Yeah.
Essentially.
A little bit.
And then all we'll do is we'll just link it back by saying that's why she's so messed up, is because her brother was one of the loved ones, and he was the one on the road, I think, wasn't he? He was the one walking down the road.
Yeah, I think that was him.
So it just felt like they didn't really know what to do to fill an extra, to make this a feature-length film.
Yeah, I feel like, as you said, that like the progression of the story is pretty bare bones. They set up the characters quite well, but it happens pretty quickly, and then you get a length in the house where he's being tortured without doing much for a long time. And when he first sort of tries to escape and then scrambles up the tree, that kind of feels like padding too. Like, why would you fucking scramble up the tree? Of all the places to go.
Under the car even.
Yeah.
Under the car.
3-minute case.
3-minute kilometres.
Why do we have to come back to this?
You can't get to full stride.
I haven't stabbed your foot yet, mate.
Yeah, that's it. So,
I think...
Because Dad's just crashed the car into the tree, I'm going over the fence and saying, keep up.
They did a good job of making
sure I'm in bare feet, so I'm like...
The hands got free, but the feet weren't.
Yeah.
So that was, if they'd caught him doing
But he got out. By the time he scrambles up the tree, his feet are free.
Yeah, but if they caught him when his feet were still caught,
no, because at that point he still had the shoes. Yeah. They take the shoes on after that. Fuck, mate, it's a 2:45k if I got me...
He's running those shoes.
Mate, 2:30 when she starts cackling.
I felt like the time in this, like, if you were, like, I know they were trying to keep it parallel with what was going on with the
dance,
or the dance, whatever it was, but I just reckon if you're that psychotic, you're going to stretch this out. It's not going to be a one night thing. You're going to.
Yeah, he's going to be tied up, shackled somewhere, you know, in the bedroom.
It felt like they were like, because obviously you were going between things that was sort of.
But I think that would have undercut the.
You couldn't do it any other way,
yeah,
but.
Because you needed to keep ramping up the intensity of the whole thing, and that's basically what they were doing. They were just piling it on.
And if you go too much longer, you start to question about like the whole bloody search and rescue that they're talking about. And
And look, to me, ultimately, there isn't like you said, Jared. You sort of fill in the blanks. You fill in a few blanks yourself, and that's where a bit of depth comes from. You know, you find out some little things, and you kind of fill in the pieces. But there's a period there where it is just nothing but gross, violent, like grotesque torture with nothing else really going on.
Yeah.
Even for him, he's just sitting there. All he can think about is escape, and he's just getting his feet nailed to the floor, and he's getting his head drilled, and everything's just happening, and not much else is going on.
Yep.
Until he makes a move, breaks free, and stabs Dad in the neck.
Yeah.
Then things roll again. We start moving.
There was a place for that. But as I brought it up too, I felt it went just a little bit too long. But I felt there was a place for it because initially, of course, he's as Maddie said, he's exhibiting parts where he's sort of looking like he wants out himself.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's this bit where he's not fighting back. He's just kind of
stuff it,
giving in.
Yep.
But I agree, it goes a little bit too long with just that happening and not really any chance to fight back or any fight back from him.
Yeah. I mean, they try and put that sequence in, as you say, with him getting clear and running up the tree, but it doesn't particularly help. It just kind of happens, and then he's back in his chair.
I think the drill stuff was where it's sort of it was prolonged, and that's where it started to push into like the torture porn stuff. Like, I'm sort of like, we already get the idea of what's going to happen because you've got Bright Eyes there who's obviously had it done, and when he pulls the drill out, you're thinking, oh fuck, here we go. So for it to be so prolonged was really fucking.
It was hard to watch.
I didn't know how like it elicited the emotions, but I was kind of like,
I was torn because after about 40 seconds I was like, stop.
Yeah.
Stop.
I was a bit the same.
And it just kept going and going. It went for about a minute and a half. And I was just like, oh God, you know, like, I'd rather not.
You're waiting for him to be dead after that as well.
And honestly, he would be. Like, Bright Eyes was basically a gormless idiot.
That's what I was saying. Hot water was going to do that. Hot water was the thing.
And she'd been drilled in the scone, and yet he could still do all. He was high functioning.
That's what Maddie said. That it was she'd had boiling water.
Boiling water poured in there. Yeah.
Fuck.
I think if you're having a drill through your scone, either way you slice it, I think you're going to.
Oh yeah, but he stopped it just at the perfect spot.
Oh wait, what is the?
I don't know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything else. It feels very slight.
Look,
it just feels like there's not much to it outside of that.
I sort of mentioned it before, but probably the most uncomfortable part of the whole movie for me was when she showed flicking through the book, and the first picture is when they're little kids. I was just like, oh, that is just so messed up, going into territory I don't even want to think about. Like, it's obviously, you know, it's messed up as it is.
Yeah.
But then when you take it to that level too, it's one of those moments where you look at it for the character and you go, it kind of makes sense because that's the way Daddy's still treating her, is like, whatever for my little princess.
Yeah.
You know, if some kids treated her badly at school, we'll sort that out, darling, and all this sort of stuff. But it is so just gross and so, like, I don't know, it just felt a step too far for me. Even when it was revealed that they weren't all dead, I was just like, man, that's really rough to think about.
Because obviously, like, she seems like she could fit in, right? Like, the way she looks, But do you reckon it would be more effective if she was, like, uglier or
No.
less?
The thing for me is you never saw it at school.
Yeah.
So you didn't really have.
It didn't establish.
Yeah, it didn't really establish how awkward and how weird they were. How, like,
and that's what I was saying. It skipped over that,
Like,
which is fine because you didn't have a lot to work with. You wanted to get into him being tortured, But in fact, you possibly could have done a little bit of extra setup at the start
Yeah.
to fill in some of that extra time that you then used on the
It
sub.
could have been him defending her or something like.
Yeah,
simple.
why was she
Motivation.
attached to him? You're like, what was it about him?
That would have almost been creepier that she was someone.
I mean, the
who was
book kind of
oppressed.
said it didn't matter. It was fucking anyone. Like, she got infatuated with someone and that was it.
Yeah.
You know,
And they would
reason
never-
unknown. Who cared?
Yeah.
She was crazy. You know, I think that's kind of what they were going for.
Well, the way that, you initially, it's like she's not good enough, but then in her head, it's just fucking everyone else is, she's in love with, she develops this infatuation, but then none of them are good enough.
Yeah, because she's kind of saying they let me down.
Yeah.
Let me down, and so I had to get rid of them.
Well, the dad's the prince.
that was so
untidy.
That's great. That's
So
the
gross.
scene where he's watching her put the dress on. His shot like a little later.
Why is it about vomiters, mate?
That was
Jesus
disgusting.
Christ. My one final one, which was quite big for me, the copper going into the house alone.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's isolated.
It's
you've
a
already
small
mentioned
town.
it.
Blood all over the
Small
floor,
town.
right?
But yeah, once you see, that's exactly what he saw from outside. I'm like, even if it's just calling back to your wife and going, shit, get on the blower to the city because we got something big going on here. Or just let someone know where I am or whatever. Like, I mean, I guess you don't have, you
Unless it's
can't.
that small town thing of he's the only cop around.
Well, that's the thing. Or even
So they could have got around it by him not looking in the window.
Even in that sense, it's like, either just get in the house first, because he sees that, and that's why he busts the door. I get that, but if you see that, I just don't know if you are busting the door. Like,
And even
I
if
felt there was a way to get him in there without making it so apparent that you shouldn't be walking into this house.
And I know that he finds the hole or whatever, but he just completely ignores everything else. After
Yeah,
that.
he just looks down, he haunches down, and then whack.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. Yeah, I was a little bit frustrated with that.
Yeah.
It just felt because most of the film was pretty well done. So when you see something like that, and it's a bit of a cliche.
Bit
you're like,
lazy.
oh, that's a bit of a kick in the balls at the end there. So
Mate, even though that kid won in the end, I just was like, hey, there's no win in this situation.
No, shit.
He won't be able to walk
Ugly.
again. He's got a hole drilled in his skull.
yeah,
He's just killed someone. Like, there's no coming. He can't talk anymore. There was no coming back from where he was. So
Yeah. He had a rough night.
full
It's a
on.
very intense movie. But
And
it
it-
makes you think, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. That's one of the things. It was thought provoking, and as
At
you
least
said,
it was something original.
yeah, it was quite original. It was like the characters were quite original. Like, I haven't really seen someone as sort of outwardly evil as like a female character that's been kind of, in a way, given the agency to be so outwardly kind of evil.
Yeah.
Without having to have been downtrodden or
Closest
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
is like the giggling girl from Kill Bill with the Morning Star. That's like, she's like,
Yeah,
and then she
yeah,
just
yeah.
knows all these martial arts and is
Messed
trying
up.
to kill people. Yeah.
Yeah, it was certainly. Look, I'll probably give it a couple of years, but I dare say I'd go back to it at some point.
Yeah, I think I'd have another look at it.
Yeah,
It was definitely
not for you.
It was very well made too on a small budget.
Yeah.
It looked great. Is there any other dislikes, likes?
No, that's all for me.
Oh, it was creepy.
Well, that's the loved ones. Find us on Podomatic, iTunes and Spotify. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. Like us on Facebook, Thrill Me Podcast Australia, at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com, and on Instagram at thrillmepodcast.au. Keep an eye on our Facebook page for the next film that we're going to cover. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.